Hi everybody, we're going to be looking at how to research foreign law. And when I say foreign law, I really mean the domestic law of another country. And this is just an introduction to get your feet wet. It is not meant as a total immersion in foreign law, it's just the basics. And what I've tried to do is give you tools that are mostly free and online. But if you were going to do a thorough job of this, you would want to use not only the free and online materials, but also the subscription materials, so things that are on Lexis and Westlaw, things that are on other databases, and print. So I've identified some 5 steps to success here. For your first step, you want to figure out what the jurisdiction is that you're looking at, and then what the structure of the legal system is that you're intending to research. For instance, if you have a common law system, you're going to be using different tools than if it's a civil law system, or if it's a mixed system, or if it's something that is based on religion or some other law. So you need to figure that one out, and I have some good tools to show you. One of those tools is JuraGlobe, put out by the University of Ottawa. It provides simple graphic depictions of legal systems throughout the world for legal and business purposes, and is easy to use and pretty accurate. So it's a nice tool to have, and we'll talk about that in the next slides. So this is what you're going to see when you first click on JuraGlobe, this wonderful map that identifies through color coding what legal system each country is based upon. It can be really helpful. And if you take a look at, say, Africa, you're going to see that it's very colorful. There are many legal systems on that particular continent, and you can zoom in, and we'll see that on the next slide. So here I've zoomed into the Middle East, and I just wanted to talk about a couple of countries here. For instance, if you look at Iran, you're going to see that it's mainly a Muslim country with some civil law concepts in it. If you take a look at, say, Yemen, you're going to find that it's mainly a Muslim country, but also has customary law, civil law, and common law concepts. If you take a look a little further north, you're going to find Turkey, which is completely civil law, and Israel, which is civil law, common law, Jewish law, and Muslim law. So this can be a really good tool to identify what types of legal systems you're going to be dealing with when you research a particular country. So step 2 is trying to identify exactly what you need. Are you needing a particular case, a statute, or a law, or a regulation, and how are you going to use it? Your first thing that you should identify is, do you already have a citation? If so, your process is going to be a lot simpler. If not, you're going to have to use a finding aid to locate the legal document that you might need. If you have a citation but you don't know what it means, there's some really great resources like Bieber's Dictionary of Legal Abbreviations, which is on Lexis.com, or the Cardiff Index to Legal Abbreviations, which is on the web, put out by the University of Cardiff in Wales. So there are some good opportunities for you to think about the documents that you're going to need, and then what if you actually have a citation, how to find out what that citation means. The next thing to consider is, will you be able to read it in its original language, or do you need to locate an English translation? Very often, well, not very often, always, the law of a particular country is written in the law of the land. So if you are going to Russia, you're going to find that the law of Russia is going to be written in Russian. And I hope you speak Russian. Finding official English translations can be very difficult. Machine translation is really not great, although it will give you the basics as to determine what that document is all about. So Google Translate can be a really good tool to use. There are some commercial translation services that will translate the full text, but it can be very expensive, and it will be not very timely. You will have a lot of lag, which I think is why the official translations of certain documents often take forever. So you need to decide whether or not you need an English translation and whether it needs to be an official translation. And depending what you're going to use that document for, you may not need an official translation. And perhaps you only need an electronic version rather than the authentic print copy. Most jurisdictions outside the U.S. don't have the same rules regarding print as the most authoritative source. So very often you may find exactly what you're looking for, especially case law, that's born digital. May never even ever be printed. So make sure that you understand the local court rules that you're working with so that you get the correct thing rather than being told by the judge or other administrator that you don't have exactly what they're looking for. So just be aware. The other thing to think about is, do you need the full text of that particular version, or can you just have a summary in English, and is that enough? Sometimes that's just enough. It depends. Are you advising a client generally, or are you litigating a particular case? Depending on your needs, there are some very accessible and helpful digests of laws or digests of particular cases that have come up that can be very helpful. So consider using a secondary source first and then see if you can locate the primary source when you need to. Step 3, you want to identify the sources of law for the country and try and locate those sources. And you can do so by searching for the source reporter in the library catalog. You can use the library's electronic resources page to determine whether we subscribe to a domestic database. That may be helpful. You can use one of the World LIIs, and we'll talk about that in a minute. You can look at GLIN, which is put together by the Library of Congress, or you can use a subject-specific guide. For instance, NATLEX, which or NATLEX for labor law, or World Bank's Doing Business for Business Law. Try these resources on the next 4 slides. Doing Business is put out by the World Bank, and it's a great free resource, and it's a collection of business laws and regs for almost every jurisdiction within the World Bank's membership, and has also, I think kind of surprisingly, a compilation of gender laws to highlight female entrepreneurship. But it can be very helpful in trying to find particular legislation. The next is World LII, and we use a version of this in U.S. domestic law a lot, which is put out by Cornell or hosted by Cornell, and that is the Legal Information Institute. And World Legal Information Institute, or World LII, is another component. There's some all over the world, and they're free, independent, and nonprofit access, and they provide access to worldwide law for a variety of jurisdictions. It's great for the UK. They have BAILII, so British and Irish Legal Information Institute, and the Asian Pacific, so Asian Legal Information Institute and Pacific Legal Information Institute. So they can be really great resources, and we're going to explore them a little bit in the exercises. GLIN is great. It is, I know that sounds a little weird, but it's the Global Legal Information Network, and it's hosted by the Library of Congress. It's a database of official texts and laws, regs, judicial decisions, and other legal materials that are put up by or gotten from governmental agencies and international organizations. Very often they're going to be in their official languages, and they're going to be summaries of each thing in English, and in often other cases in other languages as well. It can be very helpful, but can be a little spotty, and there can be a delay. So use it, but don't be surprised if it doesn't give you exactly what you need. This last resource I wanted to tell you about is NATLEX, which is maintained by the International Labour Organization. Deals with Social Security and human rights legislation with workers. Provides abstracts and citation information that's indexed by keywords and subject classification. So if you're looking for full text, NATLEX isn't necessarily the place, but it can be a good resource because there is some full text whenever possible. They're also going to be in 3 different official languages, of which English is one. So NATLEX, if you're looking for labor information, can be very helpful. But you may not get to the full text, but you may get clues and pathways to the full text, which is one step further than you were before. Okay, you're going to be surprised that this is step number 4, but use a secondary source. Very often in a comparative literature, you're going to have 2 laws, one from one country, one from another country, or cases or particular legal concepts that are compared, hence the comparative. So very often you're going to find that they will reprint a particular piece of legislation or a particular case that you may not have had access to before. And they may also have a summary of the relevant legal documentation. So comparative materials like treatises, monographs, law review articles can be very helpful to find some of that more esoteric information. So you want to make sure that you look for secondary sources that are going to have some good materials that are suggested. So one way to do that is to look at a research guide. You can also look through the library catalog to see if there are materials that you think would be relevant to your subject area. However, sometimes the titles can be misleading, so looking at a research guide can be the best way to do it. So I've put some compilations down here below, and a compilation is something that might reprint a subject-specific legislation in English, and it may have some commentary. One of those things that is a compilation that has no commentary or little commentary is International Legal Materials, or ILM, which we've talked about before. It's available in Lexis and Westlaw, and can be sometimes the first place that you find English translations of particular materials. Some other examples are here: Constitutions of the Countries of the World, Comparative Environmental Law and Regulation, Investment Laws of the World, and International Copyright Law and Practice. Some of them are only going to be available in print, and some of them you might find on Lexis and Westlaw. So just some ideas to think about. Step 5 is use a research guide. As you know, since you're already writing one, they can be really helpful. There's lots of resources in one place that are applicable to your topic. In the next slide, we're going to talk about some helpful research guides. Here are some examples of some good research guides. GlobalX is something that we are going to be using a lot. They have research guides for hundreds of countries that are written by experts within that particular country. So take a look at those. There's also Duke's Foreign and Comparative Law Research Guide, which gives you some access to some commonly used resources. And Georgetown's Foreign and Comparative Research Guide can be very helpful. There's also a tutorial that they have put out for foreign legal research, which I'm going to link on the LexisNexis web courses, so you can take a look at that. So these next 3 slides, we're just going to talk really briefly on how to locate certain large bodies of law within most countries. For instance, in this particular instance, how to locate constitutions. We already talked about constitutions of the countries of the world, and that is Oceania, constitutions of the countries of the world, and we have it in print in the library. But the thing that we're going to be using for this class most